You're listening to the Break Podcast powered by Career Cloud.
Hello. Welcome back to another episode of the Break Podcast. I am your host, Michael Garden. I've got a fantastic guest for you today. Just imagine this. Imagine growing up and hearing metal shell casings hit the street outside your house. Imagine being abandoned by your father, and then later by your stepfather. Then imagine creating over $50 million in sales for a niche finance company, only to go on to create your own business so that you could travel around the world and work from anywhere. This is the story of Jermane Cheathem. He could have been a victim, like so many others in his early life, but he broke this identity. Instead, he learned to trust himself, he engineered his environment, and he built a bulletproof mindset that he could accomplish anything. Today, Jermane helps others find freedom in entrepreneurship by teaching them the niche world of equipment financing sales. Jermane just blew me away with his enthusiasm and impenetrable mindset. This conversation definitely made me want to level up in many ways, starting right here with my mind. I hope you enjoy. This episode is sponsored by ZipRecruiter. If you need a change and are looking for a new job, or if you're looking to hire for your small business, please check out ZipRecruiter today. Their smart technology matches the right candidates to the right jobs and sends new opportunities right to your inbox. They make finding a job or hiring the right person easier than ever. ZipRecruiter, the smarter way to hire. Try ZipRecruiter for free today by going to ZipRecruiter.com and tell them I sent you. Jermane, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for being here.
Hey, Mike. Thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I want to start. Why don't you tell our audience where in the world you are right now? I know you're one of these kind of guys that's able to float around the world because you've set up your life in a way to do that, and that's what you want. So talk to us about where you're at right now.
Yeah, so last week I was in Colombia, and this week I am in Playa del Carmen, Mexico. So I was in Colombia for about almost 3 months, and now I'll be here for another month or two, and then we'll see which way the wind takes me.
Yeah, you're kind of touring around Central and South America, if I remember correctly from our previous conversation, right?
Yeah. I mean, I've done quite a bit in Europe, and I've done quite a bit in Africa, and I've done quite a bit in the Middle East, and so I've never really explored past Central America. So, this year is really my chance to get my feet wet with South America. So we're in Argentina, and then we were in Peru, and then we were in Chile, and then Colombia, and then now here back in Mexico. Mexico is like one of those great spots that I always stop in between going back to the States. So I will be back in the States here in about a month or so, and just for a quick stopover, and then we'll see what's next.
Excellent. Well, that's great. That sets up our conversation because, you're touring around, you're at the beach, but your story really doesn't start under those circumstances. You engineered your reality here, and you've done a bunch of things to change your circumstances. So I just want to read one line, and then I'm going to ask you to kind of talk about what this means and where you sort of grew up. Your bio says, $50 million in sales still can't erase the sound of metal bullet shells hitting the concrete. Talk to us about where you grew up and what the circumstances were.
Yeah, I mean, like a lot of people that grew up in the area, you're around a lot of desperate people in a lot of desperate times and a lot of desperate measures. And so that's what you see. And you see violence, you see shootings, you see crime, you see fights, you see people on drugs, you see alcoholics, you see people that abandon their families. And it's just the nature of people that are just trying to survive. And I had to make a choice as a young boy do I want to live that type of life? Do I want to just survive, or do I want to thrive? Do I want to engineer my life, or do I want to be a victim of my circumstances or the creator of my reality? And so I chose the latter. And I just made a decision at a very, very young age that I wasn't going to believe anybody except for myself. I'll take in your information. I'll process your information. I'll listen to you, but then I'm going to make a decision on my own. And I'll decide what's true based on my own personal experience, not theory, not hearsay, but really my lived experience in life. And that's been my guiding light from day one. I don't care if it's interpersonal relationships or business relationships I trust my instincts, I trust my gut, and I trust my own vision for who I want to become and where I want to go.
So what community did you grow up in? What town or city or?
Yeah, so I grew up in the west side of Phoenix, Arizona. So,
Okay.
a lot of people don't, Phoenix is necessarily a dangerous city, but the funny thing about cities, there's always a bad part.
Yeah.
There's always, problems. So, it's just like one of those things. I realized that I didn't want to live in that kind of environment as an adult. Once I had the basically the choices that business and being an American give me, because as I travel around the world, I realize we're certainly blessed as far as opportunities that we can pursue. And many Americans don't realize that because they don't go anywhere. And the reason they don't go anywhere because there's these two huge oceans on either border.
Mm-hmm.
And especially pre-COVID, I don't think people woke up to this idea of, hey, we die. It's time to explore. What is our capability? What is our possibility?
Yeah. So I fortunately did not grow up anywhere close to those types of circumstances. I lived in Chicago for almost a decade, and I do have a little bit of experience mentoring some kids that lived in the South Side inner city, and I would go down to those neighborhoods and see some of that. And a lot of what I saw through my lens was, your mindset and how you think is shaped by the environment that you're in, right? And so what's unique about hearing your story is that you saw from a young age that you had a choice to be in this survival mode or to create, and who you wanted to listen to. I'm wondering how did you get that? Who were the influences in your life that shaped that view, or where did that come from?
So it really came from a place of curiosity and a place of, I guess, desperation, to be quite frank, because I grew up raised by my white mother and my white grandmother. My father was nowhere to be found. And then my stepfather, he also abandoned the family too. So, when you, as a child, when you have high hopes for people and they disappoint you over and over again, you realize, hey, the only way I'm going to figure this out is to trust myself. And it serves me, and it has served me very well. But I've had to learn as an adult to soften that, because it doesn't always serve you to the same capacity when you're in survival mode than when you're in thrive mode. And so I really just learned that I had to make a choice. And in order for me mentally and physically to survive that kind of environment and make the right choices, I had to really trust my inner compass and really tap into what's going on in the world. How are people actually acting? What they say and what they do are two different things. And so I paid very close attention to people, what they say, what they do, how they interact, how they move in the world, what they do. And so the influence was really just the looking around the world and paying very close attention on how people live their life and what they chose. And I realized there's two types of people. There's creators and there's victims. There's doers and there's runners. And I always just wanted to be a doer. I always wanted to be a creator. I didn't want to hide. And I spent most of my youth hiding because I wasn't sure which way to go, who to trust, what the truth was about my circumstances or about the circumstances of life in general. And the only way you ever figure that out is by doing, by experiencing, and by trying and experimenting. And then from that place, then you start to realize, okay, this is true, this is not true. And then always asking yourself, what about things that I know 100% are true? Am I just wrong about? Because most of the things I think are true right now, 6 months from now, a year from now, I might be like, I was completely wrong about that. And that's the open-mindedness you must have in order to thrive in life in general, because, it's a blink. And if you're not really tapped into being open to experiencing it all and being crystal clear about what am I missing here? You're never going to be able to turn over those stones that you never were able to unlock.
It's really interesting how you put that. I mean, it made me think of, Warren Buffett talks about, I'm going to get the exact quote wrong, but, essentially know what you know, and what you know is kind of infinitely smaller than what you don't know. And I think over over cycles, in periods of our lives, we, at least in my experience, I'm continuously surprised by how much I don't know. And it seemed like you learned that really young comparatively to, I guess, maybe folks that I grew up with, or as I'm comparing to my peers, because you saw that downside quicker, maybe it was. And you said, okay, this seems to be reality, but I could be wrong here. And that is a really valuable lesson to take into your kind of formative years. So that just really sticks out to me. And then this idea of scarcity and survival mode versus thrive mode, and how you talk a lot about playing defense, playing not to lose, rather playing to win rather than not to lose. And there's those differences. Is that where all that comes from, or how should people be thinking about this offense versus defense mentality?
I think the only way to ever play life is to play offense. I believe in the Kobe Bryant mentality is you put up shots after shot after shot, and you expect that every shot's going to go in. You're actually shocked when the shot doesn't go in. And when I deal with anything, I don't care if it's a business meeting or just a coffee with somebody, or if it's anything I do, I expect to win. I have an expectation. And from that expectation, I typically have that manifest in my life, because it's like, I don't know, energy is seeking its same level. And so I think it's very important that you start to foster that. And the only way you really foster that is by starting to do stuff and starting to gain mastery over something. And I learned a lot of these lessons growing up in libraries, because I would wait there after school, and I wasn't necessarily reading all the books, but just being in an environment of a library where people are trying to get better and to learn, it has some type of energy. It's almost like a college campus or something, where it's like, people are trying to understand themselves better and the world around them better. And all these people have written all these books that took so much work and energy just to give to the world. And I don't know if it just got through me through osmosis. And then obviously I picked up several books along the way. But I think it's important to always remember that there's no progress without failure. And that's okay. And expecting every shot to go in is the only kind of mentality you can have. Like, imagine if we showed up on this podcast right now, Mike, and I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to do it, if I'm going to sound good, if the internet's going to be okay, if my mic's going to work, if he's going to like me. If I don't care, because I believe in myself and I believe in what I'm saying, because I have conviction, and I believe conviction is powerful. It's amazing how many things I say in life that really don't make any sense, but I say it with so much conviction, people believe it. So conviction wins. And so that's like why I love it when people do like the whole Kobe analogy. Like, he's taking turnaround fadeaway 3-pointers because he thinks he's going to make it. Even though like the coach is like, I don't know if that was a good shot, but like, you got to believe in yourself and you got to have conviction, and you only build that conviction muscle by doing things and building that muscle stronger and finding success and letting that success snowball.
Right. I talk about the belief flywheel, or the confidence flywheel, in that can't be gained through a book. It can't be gained through these passive ways. You have to start to take risks, even if that is the most tiny risk that you can possibly, chunk out. You have to act and do things, and then you literally have feedback for yourself. I accomplished this, or I learned something in order to take the next step. But I think a lot of people are, in this day and age especially, are paralyzed because information is around us all the time. Like, we can always access more information, and that sort of leads to disguised procrastination. So there's like this healthy balance between, sitting down and learning something by reading, and then, giving yourself a time limit on that and saying, okay, go implement. And I think, it's this mentality of being okay with failure, or being okay with just looking awkward or stupid, trying something new. Like, that's the only mental hurdle that really exists for a lot of us, like knowledge worker types, entrepreneurial types. But when you can get over that, you can start to really try things, put up shots, put those fadeaways up. And the question I have for you with Kobe is, there's a difference between expecting every shot to go in and being, I guess, devastated when they don't go in. There's like something about, yes, I have this confidence that I'm going to put this shot up and it's going in. But then when it doesn't, that guy's got the same confidence to get up there and shoot it again. How does that work in your eyes?
So this is a great question because it's all about your belief around failure. Okay. I don't believe there's such thing as failure. I just don't believe. I have a fundamental belief that I have never in my entire life failed, ever. Because I just don't see it from that lens as a failure, because it's inevitable in my eyes that whatever I'm pursuing, I'm going to get at some point. That's the kind of focus and animalistic mentality I have, where hell or high water, I'm going to achieve whatever I set out to achieve. So the outside world might consider this a failure, but in my internal world, it's just part of the process. This is part of the mission. And so I think it's just like a reframe of how you conceptualize words, vernacular. These are all just words that fly out of our mouth. It doesn't mean shit. The only thing that matters is the meaning you give to it. And so I think it's just like a mentality or a mindset of that, no matter what, I'm going to win, period. So I don't consider anything a failure. I just never have. I can't even think of a time in my life I've ever failed, ever, because I don't even know how to conceptualize it as a failure. I don't know if I black it out of my memory or it's just something I don't even dwell on because I don't even think about it. Like literally, like obviously I learn from setbacks, quote unquote, but like, it's just like, this is a mission. I think it's just a mentality that you have to develop, and you have to have a certain desire. I think desire is like one of those intriguing things about life is, a lot of people are interested in making $1 million or, being an entrepreneur that travels the world, but they're not committed. And so it's like that whole 4 a.m. Kobe Bryant thing where he's putting in 3 a days and everyone else is putting in 1 a days. And he doesn't have any friends, or like the Tiger Woods, or like anybody you see that really achieves what they always wanted to achieve. And I'm not saying it to be world famous or anything, but they could make $100,000 and live in Playa if you wanted and feel like you achieved exactly what you wanted to achieve because they were committed to what they wanted, they weren't interested in it. And many people are just interested and they want to dabble, and dabblers never get anywhere. So I think it's a mindset and this a reframing that people need to think about as far as like, how much do I really want this? Am I committed to this? And put numbers to it and then do it.
Yeah. So if you have that mentality of, I am going to succeed, it's just a matter of time, it's part of the process, I imagine that what you then choose to set your sights on becomes extremely important. Because if you're going to win, it's worthy to go in a certain direction, right? If you really believe that you are going to achieve something come hell or high water. How do you think about choosing what to do? Because I think a lot of people are stuck with that, right? They got into a job because they made some decisions when they were 18 or 20 years old or whatever, and now all of a sudden 10 years later they wake up and they're here at this point in time. They want to do something else, but analysis paralysis, information overload. I don't know what to do. How do you think about choosing and selecting what you are going to put your energy into?
I think the most important thing is be the best at whatever you're doing today. It doesn't matter what it is. And I think everyone's always thinking about, well, I need to choose what I want to do in the future. I want to choose the career I want to build. I want to choose the business I want to build. But the problem is the people that never excel in today, in this moment, if you work at Taco Bell, if you work for Chase Manhattan, I don't care where you work or what you do. If you're not excelling there, you certainly as hell are not going to excel as an entrepreneur. It isn't like all of a sudden the light switch is going to flip and all of a sudden you're killing it in the entrepreneurial game if you can't even do your normal job well. It's about seizing the opportunity that you've been given by life to be here to create whatever the hell you want to create. And if you don't have that mindset of gratitude for the opportunity to talk to you, to use this technology that I didn't have to build or create, you're never going to be able to have that kind of draw that you want from people, because people make business go around. We do business with other people. And so if you don't exude that kind of gratitude and appreciation for the other in the moment, then it's going to be really, really hard for you to ever succeed at anything else. Now, on top of that, once you get that mindset fixed, right, then it's more about like, okay, this is about being laser focused. And this is about really niching down, because everyone wants to do everything, but you can't be everything to everybody. And so the most important thing after the mindset of gratitude and the opportunity is you have to figure out what niche do I want to be in? Like, is my goal make as much money in the least amount of time? That's a different niche than let me open up a pizzeria and work there 7 days a week for 12 hours a day and make a 10% profit margin because I want to have relationships with the customers. So you got to think about like, what do you value? So second part is what are your values? And then from your values, you can start thinking about how can I niche down to find the leverage to give me exactly what I want. So, to me, business is all about strategy and all about fun and play. And it's no different than sports or anything else and competition. And for me, like when I'm winning, I like when other people on my team are winning. So that's my long-winded response to your question. But I think it is really important to think about the mindset first of like gratitude and the opportunity. And then think about like, what are your values? And then after that, okay, based on my values, how can I leverage my values to give me exactly what I want as quickly as possible with the most amount of joy coming back to me?
You're listening to the Break Podcast powered by Career Cloud.
This episode is sponsored by ZipRecruiter. If you need a change and are looking for a new job, or if you're looking to hire for your small business, please check out ZipRecruiter today. Their smart technology matches the right candidates to the right jobs and sends new opportunities right to your inbox. They make finding a job or hiring the right person easier than ever. ZipRecruiter, the smarter way to hire. Try ZipRecruiter for free today by going to ZipRecruiter.com and tell them I sent you. I like what you said there. It makes me think about, I was having this conversation just the other day about kind of control, like this balance. Achievement is like this balance between, sort of controlling what you can control and then also sort of surrendering and letting go into the serendipitous, right? And I think a lot of us get in trouble because we so overanalyze. We are trying to think 15 years into the future about what that version of ourselves wants, right? Like, what do I really want? And we're influenced so much. Our preferences are influenced so much by crap, by other people, by, culture. So it's really hard to figure out exactly what you do want a lot of times. But your frame of mind was like, none of that matters. Like, yes, you do need to know what you want, but none of that matters because right in front of you right now, no matter where you're at, even if it's Taco Bell, you have an opportunity. And you are going to go nowhere unless you can be the best employee at Taco Bell that you can be. And then that is going to give you other opportunities that you don't see because you are putting your best version of yourself today out into that world. So that is like really jiving with things that I'm thinking about in the moment of how do you balance between these two states of driving at something and controlling what you can control, but also being open to luck, God, whatever it is, coming in and catching more upside. So along those lines, I want to talk about where your career went then, right? Because you got into the world of finance and sales and things like that. Talk to us a little bit about your career progression and how you ended up in that path.
Yeah, so it kind of goes back to the values thing. Like, one of my key values is I believe financial freedom is the first freedom anybody should ever seek. Because without that freedom, it's really hard to obtain all the other freedoms in life because you don't have the time freedom that you want. You don't have the autonomy of your day. and you don't have the flexibility to go where you want anytime you want. And so the first layer for freedom for me is always financial. So if I'm going to get into financial freedom and I want financial freedom, then I better figure out what finance is all about. And so that's why I went to the finance realm. And I originally got a job with Wells Fargo to work as a branch manager. But the funny part about it is my true nature came out like the day before I was going to start. And I asked my boss, I said, hey, I think I'm highly qualified for this job. And I think I need a higher starting salary. And he told me to kick rocks, rescinded the whole offer. So now like I have no job, right? And I never thought of myself as a salesperson or like really good with people or a good communicator. I was, again, like I was saying, I was always hiding as a youth. I was always scared that I wasn't accepted, being abandoned and all that. I had all these attachments to, who I was and would I be enough, right? And so like sales sounded like the scariest thing in the world to me, but that was the only option I had after Wells Fargo rescinded the offer. So I went to a sales job where I was making 300 cold calls a day, getting my teeth kicked in, a bunch of no's nonstop. But I figured, man, if I can do this, I can do anything. This is like a boot camp. And so, the way I thought about it is that you got to go down that dark cave. And I think it's Carl Jung always talks about it, like the growth that you always want, all the fruit and all the joy and everything you want in your life is in that dark cave you do not want to go down. And that was the cave. That's the cave I chose. It's like, I'm going to do this cold calling. I'm going to do all this sales. And I'm going to see if I can figure out how to make as much money as possible with this finance thing. And that's what I did. And so I did that for a long time. And I was cold calling people, seeing if they needed financing for their business to buy equipment, right? And this dovetailed into my next part of my business is I'm like, I'm tired of working for somebody. I was doing all the grunt work. I was creating all the income for the business, but I'm not seeing any of the fruit of that. And so I'm like, the only next dark cave for me to go down is entrepreneurship. I got to start my own business. And so that's what I did in 2015. And I started my own equipment financing company. And, obviously it's scary because you're on your own. And if you fail, then you have, egg on your face. But again, it's a dark cave you have to go down. And I was always on this path of financial freedom first, because I knew after that I could get to the time freedom, I can get to the location freedom, I can get to the mental freedom. And I'm always looking for leverage, and I'm always looking for niching down where I'm not offering financing for everything and all types of stuff. I'm very focused on one product, in one method, in one way I get my deals, so I don't have to do all the work. And so that's kind of how I got into the business.
So after Wells Fargo, what was the next job then? Can you tell the company or the exact role?
Yeah, so I was an account executive in sales doing equipment financing. Same thing, this for someone else's firm. It was the best thing I could ever do because, man, doing that day in and day out, just that grind of all these no's and just waking up and knowing this is the procedure. You do this for these many hours a day and you're going to get results. You're going to see results. But the problem was the methodology was very archaic. It wasn't smart. It wasn't leveraged. And so what I decided is, instead of me calling after physicians to see if they needed financing to buy equipment, it was a waste of my time. So I realized the smarter way to do this is just to partner with the equipment sellers. They're already talking to all the physicians. They already have a network of hundreds of physicians that need to buy their equipment. So all I do is partner with them and they do my financing for me. They offer my financing products on my behalf. And then anytime anyone brings you in as a referral, you're automatically trusted. So these deals just get signed. And I realized, this is way smarter, a way better method. And then all of a sudden, instead of me cold calling all day, now I'm chilling at the gym or doing whatever I want. But again, I'm still a slave to someone else's business. And the next step is really, hey, you got to be an entrepreneur. You got to do this on your own.
Yeah. And I want to get to that and what your thought process was and how you went about doing that. I just have a couple of follow-ups on the equipment financing. So, did you know anything about equipment financing at the time, or how did you get down? Did you look at other sales jobs in other industries, or was this just, this is where I started?
I interviewed with a bunch of other companies. No one wanted to hire me. This was the only job that was hiring. So they're figuring this, put him on the phone and see how he does. And so And so going into it, yeah, I had no idea equipment financing was even a thing. I thought if you're a business and you need equipment, you just go to the bank or something. I didn't know it was even a thing, that there's intermediaries like myself that structure these deals that help the banks get deals that they want, and the businesses get what they needed, which is the funding to buy equipment. So I didn't know this even existed. And I think most of the American public have no idea this exists either. So it was just as surprising to me as most people think.
Yeah. And I think there's probably two sides of that coin, right? Like you could be down and dejected that you didn't get hired by any other place. And I don't know how you exactly felt in the moment, but obviously this is one of those serendipitous things that happen when you just give in and go for it and try to do your best. You figure out another world of possibilities that opens up for you, which ended up being, your stair step into mastering a skill and then creating your own business. So there's a couple of different ways of looking at that point in your life, I suppose.
Yeah, I thought it was a blessing. I never think things are, I always think the world's happening to me, not against me. And I always think it's like always a beneficial no matter what happens. And if you think about it, if I would have had that job with Wells Fargo, oh my God, I'd be miserable. That's the last thing I would want to do. No thanks. I don't want to get tied up in that kind of bureaucracy. So I was blessed.
What was the feeling? So when you're doing this job for somebody else, and you end up being essentially called or pulled in by some force, to create your own business. Talk to us about like what you were feeling. What were the emotions there? How did that play out? Because what I'm trying to get across to people is, there's a bunch of people in our audience that are probably feeling some of these same things, but they don't know exactly what that means. And so I'm trying to give them a window into what you were feeling at that time when you made that decision, when you broke the path that you were on to go, a different way.
Well, the initial feeling is misery. It's like the Thoreau quote, most men live lives of quiet desperation.
Yes.
And that was the life I was living inside. No one knew it from the outside because, I got plenty of money. I got plenty of free time. And it seems like I have a great life, right? But internally, I know I wasn't being my highest self. I wasn't creating exactly what I wanted, which was 100% autonomy, 100% ownership of my results. And so it was this desperation really internally where you just are kind of, I don't know if the right word is, you're kind of going through the motions in life. You're just getting by. You're just doing the bare minimum, and you're not really pushing the envelope. You're just kind of you're not even surviving, because I had plenty of resources. I was just existing, and just okay with the status quo. But I wasn't okay with it because every night before I'd go to bed, and every night or every morning when I'd wake up, I'd always have these whispers of like what I should be doing and where I should be going. And it was always like my higher self telling me, it's time to do it. Like, you got to do it. You have to do it. Like, what are you scared of? Like, the fear was, the fear is so thick, it's like fog. Yeah. But, it goes back to what I was saying about desire is you got to get to a point. And whenever that happens, when the desire is so strong, you're ready to commit and not just interested in being an entrepreneur, then you'll do it. And you have to just kind of surrender to that part of you and just like trust when it's going to hit, it's going to hit. But it's such a weird, it's a great question because it's such a weird place to be in such a dark, kind of wandering place where you're not sure what you're going to do next and how you're going to get there, but know that you're eventually going to do it. It's almost kind of like what I was talking about earlier about, I knew I was going to do it. I wasn't sure when or how, but I knew I was going to do it. And so that was kind of always my guiding light. And I just, kind of just needed that always constant reminder to be there. So when I was ready and the desire was strong enough, I was able to pull the trigger.
You kind of wait somehow for that desire to build. Are there ways of actively building it? I'm just thinking about this because like I've obviously been in the situation as well. And there's misinformation around these situations. There's a lot of people that say, well, trust your gut and do what you think is right. But a lot of times people mistake that gut fear and they think it's something that they should avoid. But what you're describing, and certainly my experience has been, when I've got that really big fear, that pretty much tells me where I have to go. And it's just a matter of when I'm going to go there. So do you know of any tricks to build that desire, or tips for people that when they feel that feeling, like to lean in there?
Yeah, there's a lot of great things you can do. Number one, I would say, what are you feeding your mind? Because like, I don't own a TV. I haven't owned a TV in years. And I'm not on socials. Only thing I feed my mind with is like information that is positive, uplifting, business, psychology, sales, whatever. Something that's going to build me, that's going to create more abundance, either financially or emotionally or spiritually. That's the only thing I focus on. And so when I was an employee, I was watching football, I was watching basketball, I was watching dumb shows. I was wasting from 5 p.m. till I went to bed at 11 on stupid shit. And so, of course, I'm not going to thrive if that's where my mindset is. And so you have to expect what you're putting into your mind, into your body, and physically what you're doing to be a manifestation of where you want to go in the world. And so that's number one tip. Start feeding your mind, your body, work out. Like, physical activities is like my number one thing. And so from doing those type of things, you're going to be able to think clearer and have more confidence in yourself that, I can actually do things. I actually feel more equipped instead of hiding and burying my head in the sand, trying to watch Sunday football. Maybe I should go get a book and actually write down my plan of action for the next quarter, or write on a calendar the day I'm going to leave my current company, or whatever it is, like whatever you need to do to get your mind to a place of certainty that this will work. And the only way you'll get to that place is actually seeing things you're doing today working for you, even if that's just losing weight. Even that means you're bench pressing a little bit more. So that would be the number one thing. And then number two is like, who do you hang around with too? If you hang around with losers, you're not going to aspire to do anything else. So that's a key part of it as well. I would say those two will get you there, really, because through osmosis and through like journaling and stuff like that, you'll start to see clearer about, okay, October 1st, I'm leaving. And you put on the calendar and you start making a plan for October 1st. And every day you make a little bit more progress. Now, all of a sudden, maybe you're meditating. Maybe you're doing whatever you have to do to get, like training for the Olympics. Because this is sport, and it's a competition, but it's play. Like, the best athletes are the ones that are having fun. And they may not look like they're having fun, but they're having fun inside when they're beating your ass. And so you have to think to yourself, like, I'm going to die, so who cares? Like, do you want to I always think about this quote. I don't know who came up with this quote, but like, do you want to safely tiptoe through life just to safely arrive at death? Like, literally tiptoeing through life, and you're going to die. So it's like, there's nothing safe. That's all a figment of people's imagination. There's nothing guaranteed about anything. And so those would be my suggestions for sure.
Do you remember the exact moment that you decided to like give up TV, for instance, or pick one of the things that you just decided, hey, this is not working for me in my life, and I'm not going to put it in my life anymore? Do you have a story around any of those?
Oh man, I don't remember when I specifically gave up TV. I was just like, I think it was kind of a slow creep, because I was like, cable, I don't like paying for it anymore. And after there's no cable, it's like, well, I can't even watch. It's almost like, here's the important thing. You have to engineer your environment. It's so important. You have to engineer your environment. I don't care if it's for food or for TV or for work. Like, it's like the one thing that will make you succeed without you having to do anything. It's almost automatic. If there's no snacks in the cupboard, then you're not going to eat cookies. And if you're not eating cookies, then you're not gaining weight. It's like simple shit. And so I've always been hyper vigilant on engineering my environment for success. And that was like one of those things, like, this isn't benefiting me. And after those long nights of watching a bunch of dumb shows, I still felt empty. So it's like, well, why not do stuff that makes me feel inspired? And I just decided, I don't remember a specific moment though, but engineering environment.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. All right. How about the moment, the break moment when you decided you were going to do your own business? And maybe there wasn't one specific moment, but talk us through the feelings building to that, the decisions that you made, and when you reached that point of no return, right? Like, I'm doing this.
I think I've always known I was going to be an entrepreneur since I was like 5 or 6 years old. It's just, I didn't have the mental capacity I felt, or I didn't feel like I was mentally ready, until I started feeding my mind and feeding my body and doing things that proved to myself, if you engineer things and you design your life and you execute on the things you promised yourself, you're going to see the fruits of that. And so, I've always believed I was going to be an entrepreneur. It's just always been in my DNA. And even when I was an employee, I felt like I owned the company. I treated my work as if I was an owner. I would literally, like, for expense reports, I would try to get things on discount, because like I'm not going to be wasteful with resources. And so I've always felt like I was an entrepreneur and an owner, even when I wasn't. So I think it's just kind of like a mentality. I love the idea of ownership and accountability. That's all you have. So I think it's important to always kind of trust yourself and always know, like, who do you want to become at some point in the future? I think a lot of people don't even want to look at who they want to become at some point in the future. And so then they just stay who they are.
Yeah. It's hard to look forward because it's hard to imagine the possibilities and also try to be realistic at the same time, right? Like it's just sort of this weird mental thing that we're not really good at. But obviously we can see the concrete things that happened, and we can see what it is today. And I think that just skews our perception of so much of what we can do, what we're capable of, and of how risky things are, right? Like if you just look back at failures and problems, your risk profile is totally skewed. And if you can't imagine sort of upside coming out of nowhere, then you can't imagine a world in which you're coming out, way ahead or on top, which is so interesting. It's this lack of imagination or lack of it's not even imagination, it's our ability to think through odds and uncertainty as this spectrum that's so interesting. So you knew you were going to be this entrepreneur at some point, and maybe it was just you still needed to build up the belief, or you still needed to build up your knowledge base or whatever it is. And I think a lot of people fall into that camp as well. They think they need to learn one more thing. And what they fail to do, I think, is place a premium on their ability to learn along the way. So did there come a time, what was there a thing that you needed to learn, or was it just, what, fuck it, I'm tired of reading the next book, I just got to do it? How did that go in your mind?
I think the way it went, it was kind of a series of steps. Number one, as I put down on the calendar the day I was going to leave my job.
Okay.
And so that was number one. So when I put that on the calendar, I said, okay, it was a year prior. So I said, no, I'm going to be here for one more year. I'm going to take this year to really get focused on, building my mind as an entrepreneur, as a true entrepreneur on my own, right? And, reading books, getting heavy into, journaling and meditation, and like really getting crystal clear about this Olympics that's coming up, right? And also a lot of it for me personally is I wanted to make sure I left my previous company from a place of love and abundance and of gratitude, and not from a place of I've outgrown you. And so I took that year to really get to know my coworkers a lot better, because I was always very aloof, just all about me, just all about winning, all about a salesperson, like just through and through. And so I took that year really to get to know them on a closer level, and I think that was important for me, just from just personally. I didn't want to operate from that place of lack. But life's a journey, and it's a long time here on earth to me. And there's no reason to take shortcuts that are going to jeopardize your character. And it's all you have. And so that was another aspect of it. And then that was really it. Really, I knew it was going to be dark. I knew I'd be walking in the middle of the night, not being able to see where I was going. And I was okay with that, because I just believed that. And I know from my experience of doing things, because I've done a lot of things prior to that, is as long as you show up as yourself and you try your best, people in the world that send you business, that you do business with, are going to see that. And again, like I go back to what I said before, we do business with humans. And as long as you're a human with someone else, you can win in sales or business in general, because they want to work with people like that. There's so many people that have pitches and scripts and just phony nonsense. When they meet a real person that's just like authentic and like just talks to you, they can't help it but work with you. So it's like, it's a beautiful thing. It's like the whole Helen Keller quote. She says, life's either an adventure or it's nothing. And I truly believe that. So that's just kind of where my mentality was at.
Today's world is like everything, everything's commoditized basically, like services or whatever, but authenticity is the differentiator. Especially I think for individuals, for that goes for finding jobs, landing jobs, for building your own business, for finding customers. Authenticity is that it's sort of like being human is a skill, and like the differentiator. So that's really interesting. Now, so talk to us a little bit about the business then. Okay. What did you build? What are you doing today? How are you helping people? Go through all of that and let our audience know about that journey.
So the first business, obviously, once I left, was doing the exact same thing, equipment finance. And so it was a beautiful business model because it's extremely niche and extremely leveraged and it's digital. So I didn't realize some of the resources that it gave me until after the fact, because I took my mom to Italy for her 60th birthday. And on that trip, I was like, man, I don't want to be working. I want to enjoy Europe. And I had to figure out over those 3 weeks, like, how can I make this work? How can I put together systems and SOPs where this can operate while I sleep? Mm-hmm. And so we decided to extend our trip like another 3 or 4 weeks and really button down the process to make sure this business can operate seamlessly from anywhere in the world, and also using leverage to get our time back. And from that trip, I realized like there's nothing special about me. I have no special skills. I can talk to people and that's about it. And so, I realized I have all this freedom. I have financial freedom, time freedom, location freedom. And the way the business model is set up is I'm in partnership with other equipment sellers, another salesperson. So it's like there's a lot of mental freedom with that because we're friends, we're teammates. We're not like adversarial where it's like me versus the customer. It's like, no, we're both here together, making sure the customer's taken care of. So I realized that from that point, like I can package this program and help anybody do this that is hungry to be an entrepreneur, to be a solopreneur, to have these freedoms that I was able to establish. And so all I did was really just take my SOPs that I developed for my business that I used on that trip, and we packaged it together to create basically like a mastermind to allow other people into my life, into our realm, and to learn this business model so they can do it on their own and have the same fruits that I was able to get. So it really came as a byproduct of me being hyper focused on having the most efficient equipment financing business for myself. Mm-hmm. And then from that place, I was like, oh, other people can do this. Anyone can do this. There's nothing special about you need a degree or you need a finance background. No, this is 4th grade math. This is like, if you can talk to people and you're hungry and you can interact, then this is easy. So it was just kind of a beautiful marriage how it came together.
Interesting. So leaving the firm to start the first business, the equipment financing business, was there a lot of preparation, planning that had to go, or was this kind of really, you're a one-man band salesperson and you obviously knew a whole lot. You had a lot of knowledge from working there in relationships. You just stepped out of the bus and hung your shingle up, or was there a lot of planning and things that had to happen before you sort of launched?
No, the only planning I had to do is get my mind right.
Okay,
that was really it. Yeah, it's such a seamless business. There's not really, it's not brick and mortar. You don't need an office. You don't need inventory. It's all digital. And so there really wasn't a lot of planning. There were a lot of issues, I would say, as far as, lawsuits and, because no business wants their star employee to leave. Right. And now they're losing all that revenue. So, there was a lot of legality problems, and also trying to get on board with some of the underwriting and banking facilities was, I wouldn't call it a problem per se. I would call it a challenge. But as far as the actual business part, I mean, filing for an LLC takes 20 minutes,
Right.
it costs $30. A website, even back in 2016, a website was like, I don't know, $50 a month. Like, it's very minimal how much you spend. So no, I think most entrepreneurs and most salespeople in general, they're always planning. It's like you said earlier, it's a scapegoat for inactivity.
Right.
And they use it as a procrastination tool. Oh, I'm waiting on my business cards before I start to make the cold calls. Or, oh, right now it's the summertime. Everyone's on vacation. I'll wait till the fall. Everyone's always waiting. And so it's just a scapegoat. So no, there really wasn't much planning at all.
You're listening to the Break Podcast powered by Career Cloud.
This episode is sponsored by ZipRecruiter. If you need a change and are looking for a new job, or if you're looking to hire for your small business, please check out ZipRecruiter today. Their smart technology matches the right candidates to the right jobs and sends new opportunities right to your inbox. They make finding a job or hiring the right person easier than ever. ZipRecruiter, the smarter way to hire. Try ZipRecruiter for free today by going to ZipRecruiter.com and tell them I sent you. I think what, a lot of people listening are maybe interested in here, and certainly I was interested when we first started talking from my kind of previous investment background. And I'm always thinking of niche ways to, make a buck and diversify and things like that. Give us a sense of how the business operates, or like what the inputs, outputs are for somebody that would come learn from you and then maybe go try to start this up. Like, what is the time commitment? Is this a side hustle for somebody working a job? Is this a full-time? Just give me the lay of the land about how this could operate so people can understand the opportunity here, and then get in touch with you, obviously, if it intrigues them.
Yeah, most of our students and members that are in our mastermind, they do this as a side hustle. So many of them have full-time jobs. And so, like I always tell them, as long as you are focused in business and sales, to me, is all about focus and about time blocks. If you can block off 3 to 4 hours a day to focus on finding these equipment sellers and finding these relationships, which is very easy because the internet gives you access to everybody, then you can do this as a side hustle. So like one of our students, he does this. He works at a hospital. He's a hospital administrator, and he works there until 2 p.m., like 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. And then from 2 to 6, he does this. And he makes, the other day, he made $23,000 in one day. So you can make $20,000, $30,000 doing this part-time. And as long as you're willing to be hyper-focused on this one thing, you don't have to do 100 things or even 5 things or even 3 things. You do one thing every day for 3 to 4 hours a day, you're going to find success. And that's the beautiful thing about this model. Like I said before, I am not special. I can't do anything else. I have no special skills, but I can focus for 3 to 4 hours a day talking to people either over the phone or on DMs or on email. And it's a leveraged model because it's lucrative, it's finance, and people always need it. It's always in demand. So it's like, I just want other people that are hungry to have this opportunity because it's blessed my life so much. And everyone thinks, oh, people just go to the bank. No, they don't. They work with brokers just like me. And so if you want to get involved, I'm always excited to have people that want to take charge of their life and like not be a slave to some other person's business. Like, why build their dream? Build your own.
Right. You got to be building something that you control. Because what you said earlier, there's no certainty in anything. And I think most of us, especially in the United States, especially if we are upper middle class or knowledge workers or whatever, take that for granted. Our lives have been very predictable, relatively recently. And we are sort of over optimized for lifestyle. But the reality is that your company will lay you off if they have to. And we've seen that in tech with 96,000 layoffs, in the last year. Things are uncertain. And if you're not building something that you can control or own, you're just selling your time to, and hoping that there's another person who wants you. So I think the idea of having a side hustle, it's like the new savings account. It's like build this asset that kicks off cash, can be levered up or down, and sort of fuels your curiosity and gets you doing something, that you own and control. There's a big advantage to doing something that is yours. I think, like, to your happiness, to your well-being, to how hard you work. So I love bringing this idea of like this niche, financing kind of side hustle thing to our community here. How do people work with you then? So you said it's a community, it's a mastermind. How is it kind of set up? Where can people find more information about this?
Yeah, so they can find all the information at creatorslearn.com. And the reason why I called it creators, because I believe I'm a creator of my life, right?
Right.
And so I want a place for other people that want to create this type of like ownership of a business. Because if you don't have equity, then you don't have nothing. Like you were saying, you can be laid off at any moment. So creatorslearn.com is where you can find, I have a training on there that kind of gets you through a 17-minute training that tells you everything about the business, how it's structured, how the mastermind works. And it's really, so the mastermind is a weekly group coaching. And we talk about, deals you're working on, questions you have, role play, scenarios. I usually go on a rant or two about different mindset stuff. But I believe success is all about mindset. It's all about who you hang around. If you hang around people that are high achievers and have been where you want to go, that's where you need to be. And, but also with the mastermind, you have access to, scripts, templates, video tutorials, put about 5 hours of video tutorials that you can take at your own pace. And our whole goal is to make sure you win and to make sure you thrive, because anybody can do this. And it's just like getting, like we were talking about earlier, getting over that fear of that I can't do it and getting to the point where I can do it. And almost like figuring out how, maybe even through osmosis, even if you have my enthusiasm or my, trust in the process, then if you have to borrow that and it gets you to what you want, 20 grand a month, 30 grand a month, 40 grand a month, 50 grand a month, whatever, then do it. Because I don't want you to be focusing on your losses. I never have and I never will. I just focus on my wins and where I want to go. And so like just hanging around people like that will get you there. And so that's really the structure of the group. And we help you with all your deals. You don't have to worry about anything except for talking to the equipment sellers. And that can be via text. One of my best students, he doesn't even talk to anybody. He thinks his worst skill set is talking to people. So he does all this via text. He does this all via DMs. He does it all via email. And, he's making 30 to 40 grand a month. And like, I'm more pick up the phone and talk to somebody. Yeah. So you can win no matter what your personality is. And I got people that are winning that are working only on nights, a couple hours a day at nights and a couple hours on the weekend. So like anyone can get to this if they really want to get there. So I'm just excited to be able to, have more people into the community and see people win.
Very cool. I got a few more questions for you before we close everything out, but it's real. I think it's really intriguing. And I love these ideas where it's super scalable. It's on your own time. And you can start to step out into that world of entrepreneurship through something like this. I always tell my number one recommendation for anybody that comes to me and says, I would love to be able to work for myself. How do I start doing that? I don't have an idea. And I say, the first step is essentially freelancing. Like you have a skill that you are being paid for at your job today. If you go get one other client to pay you for that, you are now a freelancer, right? And yes, there's not all the scale and leverage like you talk about, but that's the first step. And something like this seems to really sort of model that, except you have a plan for them and you have support for them to get into this world. So it's really interesting, and I'm glad we've been able to bring that to our audience to talk about. And it's something that I kind of want to learn a little bit more about as well, which is cool. You have talked. So I just got a few more questions for you. You've said this word leverage several times within this talk. Can you describe what you mean by that? What is leverage to you?
So leverage is you put a little in, you get a lot out.
Mhm.
And it also could be considered like a lead domino. And I believe that's the only thing there is in my mind is leverage in lead dominoes. For example, my lead domino in life is waking up early. That's my lead domino. Because when I wake up early, I have time to do everything I ever want. And I have a thing called win before noon. So my day's done by noon. I don't do anything else after noon. Because in the morning is for creating. And so that means waking up. I do a quick, maybe 10-minute meditation where I get extremely grateful about my life and my opportunities ahead of me. And who do I want to be today? How I envision how I move in the world. And then I hit the gym. And then I start my first 1 hour time block. And then in between, luckily where I'm at, and you got to be flexible. So, there's nothing set in stone. But my point is, my lead domino is waking up early, because then I'm able to do all these things that I want to do and then come back and finish my 4 hour time block before noon. And so when I look at business models and I look at business opportunities and how I can strategically figure out how to make the most money in the least amount of time, I'm looking for leverage too. So that's the whole reason why I went to finance. I went to something digital. I went to something highly lucrative. And the method I get my business from is highly leveraged, because I'm not doing the selling myself. I'm just partnering with the people that have a better relationship with the actual buyers than I could ever have. And they do the selling for me, and I get to borrow their trust. It's no different than me, Mike, being on your show. I'm borrowing your trust of your audience, that now it's transferred over to me. And I look at life and business from that lens, because if they trust you, they're going to trust me. And same thing with my equipment sellers. If Dr. Smith is buying an ultrasound from Todd, they trust Todd. So when Todd says, yeah, use Jermane for the financing, they're going to trust me. They just sign. Plus, they already told Todd already told Dr. Smith the payment's going to be $600 a month, and it's 100% tax deductible. So when the documents come, yeah, here, thanks. And then everyone's happy, everyone gets paid, and everyone's on their merry way. So that's what I mean by leverage is, finding that lead domino and finding those opportunities that allow you to engineer your environment and your circumstances and the people around you, so you win without putting a lot in, but you get a lot out.
Yeah, I think that's a really good description. Leverage is essentially the way that you're able to kind of consciously engineer your future how you want it. Because if there was no leverage, then work makes a lot of sense. But we're a lot smarter than that now, right? It's like work smarter, optimize for lifestyle, optimize for kids, optimize for travel, whatever it is. You can decide what you want and then figure out how to lever that business, that job, that responsibility in order to get what you want there. So I like that. Thanks for taking us through that. You've talked about mindset a ton as well. You told us a little bit about your daily routine in terms of waking up and meditating. And journaling has played a huge role in your life. So this is something that I'm trying to figure out for myself. So what does your kind of journaling practice look like? What does that entail on a day-to-day basis or week-to-week basis?
I'm kind of a weirdo because I'm not really very dogmatic about any of this stuff. The only thing I'm dogmatic about is working out. That's number one.
Yeah.
But like I'll go 6 months where I journal every day, and I'll go 6 months where I don't journal at all.
Okay.
So and same thing with the meditation. There's times where I'll go months and months without ever meditating, but I meditate all day though. Like this right here is a meditation for me.
Right.
Walking to the beach is a meditation for me. Working out is a meditation for me, because I'm just being aware of my thoughts, my limiting beliefs that come up, and I catch them and I don't feed them anymore. It's about catching your limiting beliefs and not feeding them. And so about the journaling. So what I currently do is I usually take all day Sunday off, and I don't have any devices. I don't have a phone. I don't listen to music. I don't do nothing, but I have a pen and paper in my journal. And then what I'll do is just write down things that come to my mind, because we take in so much information throughout the week. I have to figure out how to disseminate and filter, what's the good stuff. And I have this saying, the good shit sticks. Mm-hmm. And so on Sunday, I figure out what good shit over the week stuck with me or wants to come out that I need to write down, that, yeah, I should make that phone call. Yeah, I should work on that. Yeah, I should change this landing page. Yeah, I should do this. And I just allow it to pour out on Sunday. And then I usually implement it the next week. So that's my current journaling. I don't journal daily. So yeah, Sunday's really my day. Now I will do like I wouldn't call it a journal. I'll just call it like an outline, what I want to work on for the next day, for tomorrow. But that's not really a journal. That's just kind of like what I want to tackle. But Sunday is like one of those key days to let the good shit that stuck over the week come out.
I like that. I struggle with that. You get ideas and random things that you can't execute on in the moment during the week. But yeah, letting the good shit stick and then writing that all out, that makes a lot of sense. I like that. All right, I'm going to close it out with these rapid fire questions, and then we're going to let you enjoy the beach and whatever else you're going to do today. Does that sound good?
Awesome.
Okay. So is there a recent author, thought leader, or influencer that you've come across that's really caught your attention that you think people need to be following or learn about?
For your audience, I would say Gary Keller's book, The One Thing, is a key philosophy that I live by. And it's all about leverage and all about that lead domino. And, he's built a big business in Keller Williams. So, you always have to trust the source of if someone's telling you something, and I trust him as a source. So I would say that is huge for your audience. Just if you wanted to understand sales and marketing better, which you should, because that's life. Everything's sales and marketing, everything. Alex Hormozi is probably the best that I've ever seen, that is able to convey the message in very simple English so you can actually understand it. So those would be the two I'd hit you with.
Okay, perfect. So you kind of recommended a book, but is there a book that you've read recently that has really had an impact on you? Could be anything.
Oh man, there's a lot. I'm pretty avid when it comes to consuming information. That's what I say. So like I was talking about earlier, the morning's for creating, but the afternoon and evening is just for like consuming a bunch of interesting information. And, the good stuff I'll put on a Trello board. But I would say there's an interesting book called Awareness by Anthony DeMello. And he's a priest. And he basically says everything you've ever been told about everything is a lie because everything's made up. And for me, it's almost like a relief, like someone that is a priest is actually confirming what I've always believed, that everything is made up. And so why don't you just make up your own reality? Like literally, like nothing matters. So why not just do the things that do matter to you? Because nothing does matter. We all die. It all goes away. So that's a very interesting book. So yeah, Awareness is a great one.
That sounds up my alley. I'm going to check that one out. All right. What's your one piece of advice for someone who is just starting out in the world, trying to get a foothold in the world? Maybe they're getting out of high school or college, facing the world today. You got one piece of advice for them.
Do the one thing that scares you the most. Because the sooner you do that, the sooner you're going to be so much further ahead. You don't want to be 40 years old and all of a sudden be like, oh, I guess I should challenge myself now. Like if you are there, you still can do it. But if you start when you're 20, oh my God, like the world is your oyster. So like when I went down that dark tunnel of, hey, I got to do these 300 cold calls and I'm not a sales guy and I'm a bad communicator and people don't like me, I'm not accepted. Well, look what it built for me. So you just, like those are the years is where you really, really set yourself up for just enjoying your life and not struggling.
Yeah. And you just have the most time to recover or figure out the next chapter with the least amount of obligations. So I agree with that. I like that. Go to that pain cave, find out what scares you the most and go do that. All right. There's a lot of kind of pessimism in the world. I'm wondering what's got you really excited when you look out at the next 12 months. What's got you jazzed about the world, life, culture, yourself, your family? And you can take it anywhere that you want, but what are you getting excited about for the next 12 months?
I guess it's kind of weird, but I really don't get excited about the future. I get excited about right now.
Okay.
Like I'm excited about talking to you. I'm excited about seeing the palm trees sway and hearing the Mexican mariachi music down the street. Like I get excited about life. Like the only joy in life is in the moment. And so that's what really gets me excited. I do think about the future quite a bit, but not from a sense of like how my life's going to be in the future, but more about it's coming. But in order for it to come, I have to fully embrace the right here, right now. So whatever I'm doing, if I'm writing an email, I have to, just release all my anxiety about, or my ego about, F this person, or, let it go and just really commit to like showing up as my best self. And that really gets me excited. Where if I do one extra rep at the gym, or I put an extra half an hour, to 12:30 past my win before noon, that's what gets me excited. So, because there's no guarantee I'm going to be here in 12 months, because I've been through a lot of traumatic things, car accidents, and all types of stuff. So I really try to live right here with you right now.
Excellent. Well, I'm really grateful that you did live with me for the last hour plus. I really appreciate it, Jermane. Let us know where we can find more about you online. I know you gave the website out before, and we'll make sure we have all the show notes. But if anybody wants to learn more about you, follow you, where should they go to find more about you?
Yeah, so obviously creatorslearn.com, LinkedIn. I'm the most active on LinkedIn. And you can probably, if you just Google me, you'll find other resources where I've been spewing and ranting on different podcasts and Instagram or Facebook or something. So yeah, just Google me, you'll figure it out.
All right. Yeah. And Jermane and I are connected on LinkedIn. So if you see the connection between us, or, need to search my feed or anything to find him, you can do that. Jermane, thanks so much for being with us. I really appreciate it. I know our audience got a ton out of it. Enjoy the rest of your travels around Central America, and we will talk soon, sir.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Mike.